Hey, truth seekers, welcome back. Zach here. Yesterday, October 17th, 2016, one of the news stories was Julian Assange, the man who runs WikiLeaks, that his internet was cut off at the embassy he was staying at in Ecuador. And also in the headlines from publications such as Daily Mail, which is more tabloid, supposedly Pamela Anderson just visited him, and after her visit, he was seemingly poisoned. Anyway, a lot of people ask me, what do I think about Julian Assange? What do I think about Edward Snowden? What do I think about the group Anonymous? Recognize all three of those things. What are the parallels? We all know about them through the mainstream media. And the other parallel is all three, Julian Assange, Edward Snowden, Anonymous, they're supposed to be opposition to corruption in the government. What people don't understand is all three of these things are what is called controlled opposition, which is meant to pose as a threat or opposition to something that truly controls it. So, what Anonymous, what WikiLeaks, what Edward Snowden appear to be opposing, that's actually what's controlling them. If we weren't to know about these things, we wouldn't. They wouldn't be talked about at all in the mainstream media. There would just be complete silence. You wouldn't hear about it. What validates things in this world, what makes people buzz about things in this world, is when it gets mainstream media coverage. So, what I'm going to show you very quickly is how Julian Assange related news is created by the numbers, just like all of the rest of the propaganda in the media. What I am exposing, in case you're new here, is how news is contrived every day by the numbers. Ongoing cycles of contrived stories for the sake of agenda. And if your question is, well, what would be the agenda of putting out information, leaking information about government wrongdoing? Here's my answer to that. The people who control us, they're not idiots. They recognize that within a segment of the population, some people are awake, they're starving for justice, they're starving to see things that are done, such as what's being done with WikiLeaks, such as what the stories are coming from Edward Snowden, exposing the NSA for illegally spying on Americans, which we'd already been told about. Anonymous, another thing. They say, okay, we're going to hack the government or do this for this wrongdoing. There's a segment of the population that needs that. They need a superhero. They need something to believe in. They see how corrupt this world is, and they need something to believe in. So the media gives them that. And then they think, they start thinking positively. Julian Assange, WikiLeaks, he's been with us for 6-7 years. I remember listening to talk radio years ago where people were believing that, we're going to overturn this corrupt government because of things like WikiLeaks. Well, here we are years later, and I don't mean to sound like a defeatist, but still, the corruption hasn't been stopped. It is becoming more and more out in the open. And the media is letting it be out in the open. I think it's because the powers that be recognize where we are in the game. We as people are divided. We're busy. We have to work. We have to pay the bills. We don't have much time. We have to deal with traffic and all the other things in life. I'm someone that has a lot of time right now to do this work because I planned way ahead and I made all sorts of sacrifices to get myself in a position where I could do this kind of work. I'm trying to achieve something that's a goal of mine, but I had to plan and work many years in advance. Most people don't have the luxury of time like I do. And just like the rest of you, the time that I have to get done what I'm trying to do, trying to wake people up to put an end to this corruption, time, it's an hourglass. I only have so much time to do what I'm doing right now before I have to figure out something else. But the point is, the powers that be, they know they got people busy, like mice on wheels. Even if they're awake, even if they have information, they're not organized. They have nowhere to go to. So the powers that be realize, we can put it out in front of their face. Most people don't care. Most people are too busy. The few people that do care, they're not in a position to do anything. Or at least that's what they think. And I'm trying to say, look, people, I do think if those of us who are awake unite and show up together and say enough is enough, I think we can get something done, and faster than we think. But anyway, all this stuff in the media, it's meant to pacify us. It's meant to confuse us. It's meant to make us think that, justice is just around the corner. Justice isn't going to be around the corner until we, the people, organize and do something. So let's go through how they create this propaganda by the numbers. First, the name Julian Assange has the same gematria as government, and that's not a coincidence. He's supposed to be opposition to the government, but really he's participating in a government agenda. He's an agent being used to play the part that he does. Look at how they made a movie about him. I mean, you think the powers that be don't want you to know about this story? If they didn't want you to know, you wouldn't know. Because again, the only thing people buzz about in this world is what is made popular in the mainstream. This story came yesterday, a date with 43 numerology. Julian Assange, the small way equals 43. Almost every day, when news is focused on someone, the date connects to their name. This is how the propaganda cycles work. Notice he's 45 years old. Right now it's the time of the 45th election. They're saying that what WikiLeaks is about to release is going to really condemn Hillary and be favorable for Trump. So just think about that. I mean, this system that's supposed to be exposing the system, WikiLeaks, it's making people buy into the system. It's still not giving people the truth. It's not saying, yo, people, wake up. Your whole election process is a joke. It's all a show. It's all an illusion. Instead, it's like, they're using WikiLeaks to say, look at how corrupt Hillary is. The whole process is corrupt and bankrupt. So even when they bombard you with hundreds of pages of documents, thousands of pages, I mean, you can go through all that information. If you still don't get the point, it's not helping you. And here WikiLeaks seems to be feeding into the narrative of making people believe in the lie, which is our election system. You got Donald Trump saying WikiLeaks is coming out on this date with what's going to corrupt Hillary why is he hyping it? Why do we have to wait for a release date? If this is here to give us the information and truth and it exists, why are we waiting for a certain date? It's just promoting like it's a movie, a show to come. And that's the way our news works. It's all entertainment-based, keep people watching through the commercials. Every night they do the same thing to people on the news. Tonight you need to know this. And then they have 45 minutes of programming that's just all garbage. And then that story that you needed to know, they deliver it to you in 30 seconds. And you're like, what? That wasn't anything. They treat us like fools. From his birthday to the news, this news of him nearly being poisoned, his internet being cut off, it comes 106 days after his birthday. That's the number of prophecy, the number that the Freemasons who run our government, who run our media, go by. Hillary Clinton, running to be the 45th president, had her convention in Philadelphia 106 days before the election. Philadelphia, named from the book of Revelation, the book of prophecy. Here's another recent story with Julian Assange. His lawyer supposedly mysteriously hit and killed by a train. There's a good channel that's teaching gematria, the Bernie Trump perspective. Anyway, he did a video on how this story about Julian Assange or his lawyer being killed by the train reminded him of an episode of House of Cards. If you haven't seen my video on the parallels between House of Cards and what's really been going on in mainstream news, check that out. So anyway, earlier this year, April 23rd, 2016, this is the day the news broke. It's not the date that the story happened, but it's the day the news came out. It was the date, the news of Julian Assange's lawyer being mysteriously hit by a train. And I want to show you all that's so interesting here. Supposedly he died in Hampstead. He died in West Hampstead. Hampstead has the gematria of 33, the number of Freemason obsession, the number of psychological operations, which is what the news media always is. One of my earliest videos when I was laying out this channel, I was explaining that all news media is psychological propaganda put on by your military because we live in a military war empire, controlling the minds of the masses to go along with this evil, tyrannical agenda. Anyway, I talked about how all news media is made by the numbers for agenda. One of the earliest videos. Your mainstream military, or your mainstream media is a military psychological operations. Check that video out. West Hampstead also has the gematria of 46, like sacrifice. This is about a mysterious death, hit by the train. Most people don't run out in front of trains, Horrific way to die. The name Hampstead also has gematria of 87 the big way, like truth, like justice. He was a lawyer. Last year we saw or earlier this year, on the 44th day of the year, the word kill equals 44. The first day of Lupercalia equals 44. On the first day of Lupercalia, February 13th, we saw the news about Antonin Scalia, the lawyer, dead by the numbers. His death forecast in Family Guy and a number of other things. Anyway, just notice that weird name of his, Antonin, 87. This news story came April 23rd. That's the 113th day of the year. Mainstream 113, dishonest 113. It was also a date with 43 numerology that day. Julian Assange, another Julian Assange related story by the numbers. Here's the lawyer, supposedly. His name is John Jones. Get this. So they said he died the Monday before the article, and I looked up what day of the week was Monday. It was April 18th, 2016, 5 days before the article was written. Here's why that's so awesome. Also, before we get to the date, I just want you to see that it says the police arrived on the scene at 7:07, the date of the incident. With regards to police in 7:07, police department 77, police officer 77, this year, July 7th, 2016, we saw the worst loss of life for a police department since September 11th, all in the staged, agenda-driven shooting. Freemasonry running our police, our media, our government. Anyway, the day this man died, April 18th, 2016, a date with 58 numerology, number of Freemasonry secret society, also a date with 38 numerology, like death, like killing, and like his name. His name is John Jones. Talk about a vague, suspicious name and likely a made-up character for a fictional story just to add to the ongoing narrative of Julian Assange, John Jones, 38, killing, death, date with 38 numerology, date with 58. It's not hard to see who's running the world by the numbers, and I've been proving this point for 3 years straight with an undeniably consistent message. For anyone who comes here and thinks this is a joke, if you think my work's a joke, then surely everything in this world's a joke because you've never seen a theory backed up with more support and evidence. Anyone who watches my How to Gematria video and applies the knowledge will be convinced this is the truth in 15 minutes. Earlier this year, WikiLeaks was going to help out Bernie Sanders against Hillary Clinton. For any of you hoping that the WikiLeaks thing is going to do anything against Hillary being the next president, think again. Here's how it helped out Bernie. But I also want to talk about Bernie for a moment. Bernie Sanders, 133. Julian Assange, 113. Government, 113. White House, 113. At the beginning of the election, they said Donald Trump was the 133rd richest man in the nation. Bernie Sanders, in terms of what's in our Congress, is probably the best-spoken congressman saying the most relevant information to our lives. But even still, it's not good enough. Bernie Sanders is a fraud. Bernie Sanders is a fraud because he goes along with all the negative agendas without bringing any truth or light to them. He goes along with the lies of Al-Qaeda and ISIS, pretending that this Islamic boogeyman exists. The terrorist threat to this nation are the Freemasons and Zionists who run the military-industrial complex, who run the propaganda, who create these boogeymen for agenda, and Bernie Sanders knows it. He doesn't call them out. He participates in the lies. This year, after the Brussels airport bombing, the bus station bombing, the metro station bombing, he went on Jimmy Kimmel's show, which broadcast from the Masonic Temple in Los Angeles. He went on there and talked about how despicable ISIS was and how we need to get rid of them. This is the stuff that corrupts this world. Bernie Sanders can say all the positive things he wants, but if he's going to go along with these lies that are very clear lies, except for the blind sheep, which is what mostly America is. But if you're in Congress, you can't be a blind sheep. You can't be oblivious to this. Bernie Sanders, if he's oblivious to this, it means he's not smart enough. And that's not a good sign because he's one of the best congressmen, which says just how bankrupt the whole system is. Bernie Sanders, he also goes along with all the fake, fictitious shootings for the sake of agenda. Acts like they're real. There was that weird story about Bernie Baby dying. There was a fundraiser for it, raised a lot of money. All that, propaganda by the numbers, duping the masses, taking advantage of those who are gullible. Bernie Sanders went to the Vatican and talked to the Pope by the numbers. I have videos on all this. All of these people work for the gang. They all play their different parts. You know, Bernie Sanders, he appeases people. He gives hope to the hopeless. With regards to anonymous, they have gematria of 137, like Washington, D.C., which is on the American meridian, like authority. 137, the 33rd prime, head of the federal government. This young man right here asked me this question. What's the point of Anonymous and David Icke and Assange leaking truth to the world, though? And again, if you have that question, go back and watch what I said at the beginning of this video. A lot of people don't understand why they would leak truth. It's part of mocking us. It's because they know we're not going to do anything about it. They know we're too busy. We're too occupied. Here was another good one earlier this year. On March 3rd, the news was reporting that Edward Snowden might return to the U.S. on 3/3. Edward Snowden, an employee of Dell 33. Number of masonry, secrecy. Shill, Alex Jones. Show you something else familiar about his name. Supposedly, he was a federal employee that leaked the NSA information in 2013 about how they were spying on us. But by that point, you know, it was a news story that had already been out there for years that a lot of us were aware of. So when the headlines came that Edward Snowden was saying it was true, it was like, well, we already knew it was true. You know, telling us what we already know. And that's another thing to keep in mind. I mean, most of this information in these leaks, they just confirm things that people already know, unless you're totally asleep. And people who are totally asleep, they don't care. Anyway, his full name, Edward Joseph Snowden, gematria of 87, like truth, like justice, which is exactly what they're trying to promote with this controlled opposition. Also 222, which is a number having to do with division. And there are people in the country who think that, you know, government secrets shouldn't be leaked. It jeopardizes us all. So there's that wing of the population, the people that are cool with fascism and being ruled over with secrets and lies by a military dictatorship. You know, they're okay with it all. A lot of different perspectives in our society. And the powers that be know this. They mix us up more and more. You know, look what they've done to us in the post-9/11 era. They've taught everybody to fear Muslims, and they've funneled in millions of Muslims through immigration into the country. They confused you with who was responsible for September 11th by saying Osama bin Laden and Saddam Hussein, and then they give you President Barack Hussein Obama. Oh. So Edward Snowden, former Dell employee, former CIA employee. I mean, what more do you need to know? You think he really turned code on the CIA? He's still working for the CIA. 2013, 20 plus 13, 33. Also in history, there's this man from the UK, politician, who spoke out about government corruption. His last name was Snowden. He talked about fascism. You know, the capitalists invading government, taking it over. Parallels, you know. So there it is, Truth Seeker. And I just uploaded another video if you want to check it out moments ago. The more knowledge, the better. Until next time.